Hey guys, what's going on? This is Dimitri here from Heli Direct, and I'm super excited to be taking you through how to set up a Spirit flybarless unit. In my case, this is going to be a Spirit Wave unit. I'm going to be setting this up with my Spirit Wave radio. However, this isn't going to be a radio specific video. Spirit integrates with a lot of other radios as well, such as Spectrum, Gropner, Ethos, FR Sky, Radio Master, OpenTX, and Jetty as well. But this is not going to be a radio specific setup. This is going to be general video with general information that everybody can use. So yeah, I mean, what you need is a Spirit unit. You need a dongle to plug into the computer. You get one of these with every unit that you buy from
Heli Direct!
You're going to need a pitch gauge, and you're going to need some gyro tape, which is also included with the Spirit unit. Now, the best gyro tape to use with the Spirit unit would be the stock tape that's included with it. I've tried many others. I've liked it so much that I actually bought a roll of it. So yeah, I'm going to be doing this on my Gooski RS4 Venom, and I'm going to hook up the unit right now, wire everything up, and stay tuned for the next part. Alright guys, welcome back. So I have my unit all hooked up here. The first thing we need to do is we need to download the Spirit software. So we're just going to go into Google, type in spiritsystem.com. We're going to hit download, and we're going to choose Windows since that's what I am going to be using the software on. So we're going to hit Windows. It's going to automatically download. Yep, it's done. The software. You guys have to make sure this is checked, right? This is the driver that's going to allow the computer to recognize the dongle. Okay, and then you're going to get another window that pops up. You're going to click next and finish. That's going to be the driver, and finish. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to open the software. Alright guys, so once we have the software open, we're going to hit setup with Wizard. The Spirit Wave is not listed here, so just for the sake of the demo, I'm going to click, for example, the Jetty X-Bus protocol. Now, whichever one that you choose here, it'll show you a personalized wiring diagram on the following page. Now, Spirit makes several different units. They have the Spirit Pro, they have the Spirit GT and the GTR. Between the Spirit GT, for example, and the GTR, there's a slight wiring difference. If you guys go on Google and you type in Spirit wiring, you're gonna get a page that looks like this. He's got every type of receiver that you can plug into it, from Futaba, PPM, Jetty, FR Sky, and I mean, I'm not gonna go through it all, but the information is there, and most questions that people have will get answered by browsing this web. They have everything. I'm telling you, it's everything. So that being said, we're gonna close this. We're going to hit next, and we're going to choose the orientation of the gyro. So in my case, the wires are facing front and the top is up. This arrow here points to the front of the helicopter. The wires are in the front of the gyro, and the top of the gyro is pointing up. There's a lot of other options here. You can even mount it vertically if you want to. In terms of model preset, I always leave it at default. So once we hit next, we're in the basic servo settings. You choose your frequency and your pulse of your servos. I'm using theta servos. I'm using them at 760 pulse and 333 frequency. You could go all the way up to 700 if you wanted. See which servos you're using and look up their specs and see what they're meant to run at. For the rudder, I'm running 760 pulse, 560 hertz. So here it shows you your servo connections. Channel 1 is your left aileron, channel 2 is your elevator, channel 3 is your right aileron, and then channel 4 is your rudder. I know some units have a port that says RUD on it. It's not a rudder port. Most times it's a port to plug in an external receiver. So this is where you want to plug in your helicopter, put your bind plug in, however you bind your receiver. You want it to be bound at this stage, and you want to plug in your helicopter, so your flight pack or your 2S pack. So you're going to hit connect. What you want to see here is connected. You're going to hit next. On the next page, which is the diagnostic panel, you want to make sure that everything goes up to 100. If something doesn't go up to 100 or it goes to far over or way under, you want to definitely adjust that. And that's done through the endpoints of your channel endpoints in your radio, depending on which radio you use. I would look that up and see how that can be adjusted on your radio. Yeah, so once we have everything all set up, everything shows 100. Okay, so now I want to make sure that my swash is moving correctly. So right now when I give positive pitch, my channel 3 and my channel 2 go up, but my channel 1 goes down. So I want to reverse channel 1. And now they're all moving the same direction. Okay, when I go positive on my collective, all the servos go up. And when I put it down, all the servos go down. You really want to make sure that this is set up right. Here's where you put on your swash leveler, you do your subtrim tuning. Alright, so once you've now leveled your swash plate, you want to set so that your blade grips are showing 0 degrees on both grips. So what I like to do is I like to do all my pitch gauge work with the blade over the boom, and I always like to turn the helicopter towards me, but it's quite important that the blade is over the boom for all pitch gauge work, right? So we're gonna put the blade over the boom. We're gonna zero the pitch gauge on the frame. Okay, that's good. And I'm going to check the other blade grip. Okay, we're at 0.4, so we got to shorten that a little bit. Alright, we're zeros on both sides. So now we're going to hit next. Okay, so in this next tab, you're going to set your 6-degree geometry. The servos are going to lock into a position, which is going to be on an angle. And what you're looking for in the back is 6 degrees. So we're going to place our pitch gauge. And we see that we're at 7 degrees. So we need to lower this value here, the 128 value. We're going to lower it until we see 6 degrees. I actually like to go a little bit lower, maybe like 5.9, 5.8. There, I'm happy with that. So this value here, you want it to be over 90, ideally, right? And we're at 102, so we're doing great. Okay, so here we're gonna be setting up our collective pitch. And what we're looking for is about 12 top and 12 bottom. So we'll see where top is. Right now is 4.6, so we're going to have to increase the pitch range quite significantly. Okay, we're at 11.9, I'm okay with that. And the bottom end is 12.4. Okay, so they're not equal. That could be because my mechanical setup is a little bit off. Or it could be just the geometry of the helicopter. In any case, if you cannot fix this mechanically, I will show you guys how to adjust this to get equal travel on top and bottom. Okay. Alright guys, so the next parameter that we're going to be adjusting here is a cyclic ring. That's going to set the aileron and elevator pitch range. So how much cyclic it will allow the flybarless to give on an input or on a correction or on rescue. So the way that I like to do this, I find for 3D a value of about 12.5 degrees on the pitch gauge. I'll show you how to do it in a moment. So with the collective stick, I'll manually zero it, right? And then I'll give full deflection on right aileron. Okay, so it's showing right now that I have 9.3 degrees. I want that number to be at about 12. So I'm going to hold right aileron at full deflection, and I'm going to start increasing this tab until it shows about 12.5. Okay, now this is comfortable for 3D if you're a beginner or a mild sport flyer. You're not interested in a super snappy heli. I would decrease this to about 10.5 or 11 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to uncheck that. We're going to do the rudder endpoints. You actually don't need your transmitter to set your rudder endpoints. What you start doing is you start to adjust the travel. And it automatically goes to the side that you're adjusting. So we're going to be at around 112 on this side, and that's the limit here. And then for me to do the right limit, I have to start adjusting the right. Okay, and we're going to be at about, that's a little bit too much, at about 110. And that's good there. When you guys do your mechanical setup for the tail, you want to make sure that you're in the middle of the travel range of the rod, which is usually 0 degrees on the blades. You want to have these numbers as close to the same as you possibly can have them. If you have a 10-point or a 15-point difference, it's not the end of the world, but you want to strive for having these rudder endpoints to be the same between left and right. Okay, so now we have that done. We're going to move the heli back to how it was. Okay, we're going to hit next. And we have completed the setup wizard. All right, so there's a few things that are not set up inside the FBL. One of those things is the gyro gain. Well, it sort of is and sort of isn't, because there are two places where you set the gyro gain. One is inside the transmitter, so under your gyro channel. The second one is inside the FBL, which is your multiplier. So if you go into your Spirit settings and you go into sensor, you'll see a rudder common gain parameter here. Stock is at 0, 1.00. If you test fly the helicopter you made in it and you still feel like there's not enough gain once you've maxed out the gain inside your transmitter, then you can go back to the rudder common gain and you can start increasing this value. I recommend by 5 points at a time. Usually what I do is I'll set the transmitter gain to about 70, and if it's still way off, then I will start to slowly increase the rudder common gain until I'm in a tunable range, and then I will go back to the transmitter and I will start fine-tuning. Most of my helicopters don't run 1.00. I'm usually at least 1.1 and up. But I always start at 1.0 and then I slowly work my way up. Another thing that is not set inside the FBL are your exponentials. Those are done inside your radio. And the other thing that is not done inside the FBL is your throttle curves. If you run special pitch curves, they are also done inside the radio. So in the general tab, you have your flight style parameter. This is very similar to flight style in a lot of other gyros. In this case, the higher the value for flight style, the looser your helicopter feels, the more flybar-like, quote unquote. For 3D pilots, I recommend to start at 6. It's sort of like your agility, in a sense. I would start at 6 for 3D. I like to fly, personally, I like to fly at around 7 or 8. But 6 is a good starting number. It's loose enough, and it's still very locked in. If you're a newer pilot, then a value of 5 or 4 might be more suitable. It really locks it in, and it doesn't allow you to get all over the place. So one thing I'd like to mention is, if you guys are doing your setup and your top and bottom pitch do not match, you can adjust that in the servo travel correction tab here. You hit setup. As you move your throttle stick, it'll open up the positive pitch section. If you lower it, it opens up the negative pitch section. So if I put my stick all the way down and I click pitch adjustment, and I start playing with the slider, it'll adjust my negative pitch, and you can fine tune that in this window here. Alright guys, so in the advanced tab of this program, you have a whole lot more settings here. So as a baseline, these are the values that I like to sort of start with. Elevator filter, I like to leave at 2. What elevator filter does is if you're finding that you're getting some weird tendencies, some wobbles and things like that on the elevator axis during tick-tocks, during hard stops, or certain transitions, you can increase this parameter until those tendencies go away. Rudder delay, it really depends on the servo that you're using. Spirit does have a servo list on their website. The next parameter is rudder revo mix. This is a tail pre-comp for pitch. If you're running high head speed, you're probably not going to need any if your tail is tuned correctly. If you're running lower head speed, you might want to add a couple of points just to take out some of that tail kick. Don't be afraid to go up to 4, 5, 6, or 7 on this parameter. Use as much as you need. The next parameter is cyclic feed forward. So what this parameter does, it makes the off-center and to-center a little bit more snappy. So if you're looking for a really snappy feeling heli, you probably want to up this a couple of points. If you're newer, I would probably leave it stock at 5. For most of my helis, I run 7 or 8 for 3D flying. Rudder dynamic is sort of like a D-gain for the tail. It makes the starts and stops snappier. You'll hear them be more aggressive. It'll be more demanding on your servos. It'll be more demanding on your tail, but you're going to get snappier stops and snappier starts with the rudder dynamic. The value of 6 is pretty good stock. I usually don't touch that. I would go up a point or 2 at most. But this value will not help you in getting a better holding tail. This is just like a start and stopping parameter. So the pirouette consistency is sort of like an eye gain for your tail. If you're finding that your pirouette rates are different or they're not consistent, if you feel like your tail is whipping during maneuvers, this is what you want to increase to make the tail feel more precise and more consistent. Values of 190 to 210 is usually where I end up. For a brand new setup, I always put 190 and I start there, and I decrease it if I need to, or I increase it if I need to. Once your tail feels good, I would stop increasing it. You might start getting weird tail behavior if the value is too high. Most times I don't go over 210. For expert settings, you have another set of settings here. If you're flying a flybar helicopter, you can enable it here as well. It'll only have the tail gyro working. So the signal processing is something that you usually don't touch. That will You usually use that if your helicopter has really bad vibrations or a very rough motor and things like rescue aren't working properly. You want to enable this. And then a stabby correction is not something that you're going to enable unless you have external sensors like GeoLink and things like that. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. You want to make sure that your rudder control type is again correct. Stick deadband is a big one. A lot of people don't know this, but you can adjust it, and in my opinion it's pretty high off the bat. If you're a 3D pilot, you might feel like there's a lot of deadband in the middle. I usually drop that down to the minimum 2, which is 2. If you're a newer pilot, you might benefit from a higher stick deadband, so leaving it at stock is okay. Elevator pitch up compensation is something that you want to start increasing if say you're doing fast banks, your fast forward flight, and then all of a sudden your nose just shoots up. So the first way I would try to fix this issue is to increase the cyclic ring first, and then if that doesn't help or doesn't help enough, then I would start increasing this value by 1. So I would try 1, then 2. You're unlikely to go over 2 on this parameter. There's 1 or 2 helicopters that I had to do this on, and 2 usually is plenty. Cyclic phasing, you can adjust the phasing. If you don't know what this means, I wouldn't screw with it. Pitch pump booster is a pitch pump, so it'll give additional collective when you're moving your collective stick quickly. I don't run any. If you like it, they're really helpful for doing really fast TikToks and things like that. You can use that. Anti-gravity, something that's used for primarily smaller models, 380 and up. I usually would not recommend using it. Usually I don't touch it. And then the rescue smoothing factor, once you set up a rescue, which we're going to do in a moment, you can adjust how smooth you want your rescue to be. With more aggressive cyclic rings, you want this smoothing factor to be a higher number. And yep, so that's it for the expert settings. Alright, so if we go to the stabby tab, you can set your rescue mode here. Now there's 2 ways of doing it. You can either activate it by a negative gyro gain value. So for example, if I hit rescue normal here, this one here, because there's also selected by channel, but if I don't have any spare channels on my radio, you have to select one of these 7 options, and you will have to, and the only way to activate them would be to set a negative gyro gain on your transmitter. So say you're flying around and you're at 70% positive, you're flying around, there's an oops moment, and you want to hit rescue. You hit your gyro switch to a position where the value is negative, and then it will activate rescue. Now for most people, they do have more than a 6-channel radio, so I would recommend to dedicate a channel to it. So I'll put selected by channel, and then to set up which rescue mode you want on the channel, you hit channels, and under function here, you find your rescue mode, which is, for example, say it's rescue normal. You assign a channel to it. So for example, channel 7, right? In your transmitter, you assign a switch to channel 7, and then you're good to go. While we're here, if you're somebody that likes to use banks, you can assign a bank channel as well, right? So you can do, for example, this one channel 7, and then put this one on channel 8. And you would have to assign a switch to channel 7 in your radio, and then you would have to assign a switch to channel 8 on your radio. Now, as of a recent update, you are allowed to have 2 rescues on 2 separate switches, sort of working simultaneously, if you will. So for example, if you have rescue normal set on switch A, you can assign automatic rescue on switch B, right? So if you can put that to the 9th channel, and so if you activate automatic rescue and you feel like you set it too low, or you feel uncomfortable with the way it's rescuing, or if there's a delay in the automatic rescue or something happens, you can always hit normal rescue as a backup, if that makes sense. Now, there's also a set failsafe button, so if you are unable to set a failsafe inside your transmitter, you can set it inside the Spirit settings by clicking Set Failsafe, and it will automatically do it for you. So in the event of a signal loss, your motor will shut down. The one other thing worth mentioning is that logging is not by default configured. So if you would like to enable logging, you have to open the flight viewer, you have to configure logging, and you have to click this checkbox here. And you click the checkboxes of each channel that you want to log. Right, so it could be, I don't know, vibration level, RPM, speed, motor current, something like that. And then you hit set logging, and it's good to go. So now the last tab that I want to talk about is the sensor tab. Here you can adjust your cyclic gain and your rotation speeds. If you're a 3D pilot, I would recommend for you to start at about 10 and 10. If you're a newer pilot, I would leave it default at 8 and 8. So if you feel like you're getting up there in cyclic speeds and rudder speed, say at a value of 12 or 13, and you still feel like it's slow, there's usually something wrong. And I would go back and just double check everything that you've done. If everything looks fine, I would maybe ask somebody. There's a really good support group on Facebook. It's called Spirit System Support, and there's a lot of really good people there that would be happy to help anybody. So when it comes to cyclic gain, 55% is usually okay. I usually hover between 45 and 57. I very infrequently go above 58, but I have about 8 or 9 helicopters with this setup, and most of the ones that I have set up, the cyclic gains were always between 45 and 55. So don't feel like you have to increase that value to get better performance. That can be done using other parameters. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I shared, everything that I know about setting up a Spirit unit. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to reach out in the comments. Again, there's a really good Facebook support group on Facebook. It's called Spirit System Support. Always look on the Spirit website for information. He has a crazy amount of information there about, practically anything and everything. Again, what I like to do is I like to go on Google. I'll type in Spirit System, and I'll type in my question, right? So for example, Spirit System, YGE telemetry, and then it'll take you right to that page. So very, very, very useful. There's also a Spirit System tuning guide, which is worth getting familiar with. I would definitely read over it a few times just to sort of understand how to tune the system. There aren't that many parameters, which makes it super simple, but you still have to know what you're doing. Yeah, and the next time I will do a setup with the Wave radio a little bit closer to the release date, and it's super simple there as well. And yeah, hopefully if any of you guys were on the fence about trying Spirit, hopefully this will give you some confidence. It's a great flying unit, and let me know what you think. All right.